Happy Monday. Happy Monday, everyone. I am so excited to see you all here with us today as we talk about an important topic. So we're going to give just another minute or so for folks to come in. And as you come in, please just go ahead and put in the chat your name and maybe where you're joining from and who you work for. That would be amazing. Welcome, everyone. Oh, I see some of the folks coming in. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. The chat is going by really fast, and so I can't acknowledge everyone, but I see you. Hi, Evelyn, John, Linda, Jackie. Welcome. Hey, Sarah. I see Shannon Watkins. Welcome. Oh, man, I love it. Hey, Ann Wood. Welcome, everyone. Amy. See, Illinois is here. Welcome, Sarah. Samantha. Amazing. So good to see you all on a Monday. Again, happy Monday. So we are going to go ahead and get started. My name is Dr. Gia Kelly, and I am the Director of Transformation Teams here at Intact, and I'm employed by Change Matrix. But again, I have the esteemed privilege of serving on the Intact team in various roles and capacities. We are so excited to bring this IPV series to you all. October is IPV Awareness Month, or Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And we have put together a 5-part series. So every Monday in this month, we are going to bring information, survivor stories, stories of just triumph and trauma, right? Really making sure that we highlight the triumphant nature of survivors and children and youth who have been impacted by intimate partner violence. And so this is our first session of those 5. Welcome, everyone. And so this first session is really going to talk about the dynamics of intimate partner violence and to really debunk some of the myths that we have as a system and as a society as it relates to intimate partner violence. And so that is the focus. I'm also so excited to say that we have a survivor who is going to share her amazing story of being both a survivor of intimate partner violence and gun violence. And again, we do not want to romanticize trauma, but we do want to talk about that there is a life after this. And so I'm really excited for you to meet her. But before we get to that, I want to just tell you a little bit about Intact and why we're here, and to do a little ground setting as it relates to intimate partner violence. And so as a disclaimer, we want you to know that this presentation was prepared for Intact under a cooperative agreement with SAMHSA. All the materials that are you're going to receive as it relates to this presentation, except that has been directly taken from copyrighted sources, is in public domain and may be reproduced or copied without permission from SAMHSA. The other thing that we want you to know is that what we share does not necessarily represent the views of SAMHSA, but they are the funders. And so we like to make sure that we point that out. The other thing that I want to let you all know is that if anything was to happen as it relates to the security of this session, we will immediately end the session and send out a new link for you to join. So we just like to make sure that we put that out beforehand, just in case anything happens as it relates to the security of this session, but we don't anticipate anything like that. And people are still coming in, so welcome. You are right on time. So Intact is the National Training and Technical Assistance Center for Child, Youth, and Family Mental Health. I want you all to know that we are made up of a group of partners, partner organizations that come together to make this happen. And so on the screen, you can see our partners. We have the Center for Applied Research Solutions, or also known as CARS, who is the lead organization as it relates to Intact. and the provision of the work that we do. We also have partners like the University of Texas at Austin, FRETLA, which is the Family-Run Executive Director Leadership Association. You see Change Matrix there, which is the organization that I am employed by. Youth Moves National is also one of our partners, Georgetown University, the American Academy of Pediatrics, as well as MedStar Georgetown University Hospital. And so those are some of our amazing partners. We also want to point out that we have some amazing opportunities for you all as it relates to the services that we provide. And so our mission here at Intact is that all children, youth, and families that are living with and impacted by mental health challenges have access to the resources and opportunities that they need to thrive. And most importantly, we want to make sure that this is done in a comprehensive and equitable system of care. All right. And so our services range from individual consultation to more in-depth sessions like the one we are offering today. We also have peer learning exchanges and various tools that are available free of charge to those who are working in any aspect of the system of care or providing, again, services to those impacted by mental health. And so as we move forward, we want you to know that there will be a follow-up email after today's session. These are just some questions that folks typically ask. Do we provide a certificate of completion? And yes, we will automatically email you out a certificate to you all. A copy of this presentation or the slides that we share will be sent out as well. And this particular session will be recorded. All right. So all of that will come to you after this session. And as I am about to start just giving some information as it relates to the dynamics of intimate partner violence, I want to just hear from you all really quickly, and we're going to put it in the chat. And I'm going to ask that as I ask the question that you would type your response, but do not press enter until I say go. And my question for you all today is, when you hear the term survivor or intimate partner survivor, domestic violence survivor, I want to know what comes to mind. What other word comes to mind for you? All right. When I say that, what comes to mind for you, or just intimate partner violence in general? And so I'm going to give you a minute to get your response ready. Go ahead and type it in the chat, but do not press enter. I see a couple of people. It's okay who go ahead. It's all right. But yeah, I'm going to count down, and I want you to go ahead and press enter. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's see what we see. Oh man, look at that. Overcomer, strength, power, thriving, strong, freedom, strength. Man, look at that. Strong, courageous, empowered, brave, beautiful, free. All right. Trauma. Yeah, definitely is a form of trauma. So thank you all for sharing your thoughts. So today's session is really, why don't they just leave? How many of us have heard that saying as it relates to the topic of intimate partner violence? Why don't they just leave? If they would just leave the situation, then they will be fine. They will be able to escape the violence that they are experiencing. And so I hope to help you gain a better understanding of why, for many survivors, it is not that easy, right? And so we're going to talk about the dynamics, and then we'll go into a bit of an interview with our survivor, Miss Morris Grant. So as it relates to the dynamics, I'm sorry, before we get to the dynamics, I want to make an important pin this right here. We are talking about trauma, we're talking about violence, we're talking about stories, gun violence, and things that can be very, very difficult and triggering for some people who have experienced or witnessed such violence. And so I'm going to ask that you would take care of yourself. Take care of yourself in this session. If it's too much, if you have to take a moment off, please do. I also want to give some resources, because we know that 1 in 3 people, 1 in 3 women specifically, And about 1 in 7 men will be impacted, have been impacted by intimate partner violence. And so I want to give you also some information on resources. So we have the National Domestic Violence Hotline information on the screen, and it's been placed in the chat. So if it's something that you need to utilize or share with someone, please do. But we do want you to take care of yourself, all right? Can everybody just put some hearts up to say, I'll take care of myself? I just want to know that folks hear that. Just take care of yourself, all right? Good, great, thank you. So let's talk about dynamics. I love this quote or this description of what it means. What is intimate partner violence, right? And so intimate partner violence and domestic violence are used interchangeably. You'll hear those words used interchangeably. But when you look at it from a legal perspective, domestic violence is violence that can occur between any people that cohabitate or live together, right? So not just intimate partners. It can be a parent and a child. It can be siblings. It can be roommates, right? So that is why the language of intimate partner violence has began to be used to refer to domestic, what we know as domestic violence. Intimate partner violence is between current or former romantic partners who may or may not be living together in the same household, right? And so the Office of Violence Against Women defines intimate partner violence as a pattern, catch this, a pattern of abusive behavior in any relationship that is used by one partner to gain or maintain power and control over another intimate partner. I want you all to put in the chat power and control. Power and control. That is what is at the root of intimate partner violence. It's not drugs. It's not even mental health, right? All of those things can add to the violence, can exacerbate the violence, can be co-occurring with the violence. But when we say what causes one partner to intimidate, physically abuse, emotionally abuse another partner, it is about power and control. If you don't hear anything else that I am going to say, or our survivor will say today, I want you to understand that it is about power and control. So let's look at some common misconceptions and myths as it relates to IPV. The first thing is IPV only affects women, right? That's a misconception. Women are most often the victims of domestic or intimate partner violence, but it absolutely affects men, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Another misconception is that victims are mentally weak, have low self-esteem, always have a intense history of trauma. That's not always true, right? And I saw someone put in the chat that they believe that the root was trauma, and that could be to some degree, but why partners abuse their partners as adults really has to do with the need for power and control. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Another common misconception is that IPV does not occur in same-sex relationships. That is not true. It absolutely happens in all types of romantic relationships. What else do we hear? IPV is caused by drug and alcohol abuse, mental health issues, or uncontrolled anger. And so we see in cases of domestic violence where perpetrators are referred to anger management. But if it's about power and control, then anger management is not going to do anything but exacerbate the situation and make them better at manipulation and causing, the survivor to look as if they are the one that's out of control. So often we would see that, right? Where police would respond to a house where there has been domestic or intimate partner violence, and the survivor is hysterical, right? That's what the language that we use, or is very emotionally charged. And the perpetrator may be extremely calm in that moment because it is about power and control. It is not about anger. Why is it not about anger? Because if it was a true anger issue, they would blow up on everyone, not just their partner. If it was true anger issues, they would blow up on their boss. They would blow up with family members. There would be anger outbursts at other people. But it's calculating and very rooted in power and control if it is specifically to the partner and to no one else. All right. Another misconception is that IPV will end once they call the police or they leave the relationship. And I'm going to, tell you that's absolutely not true. For many survivors, when we look at risk factors, survivors are more likely to be killed after they leave the situation. All right, after they leave. So this is why the language of let's just leave cannot be approached lightly. There has to be planning around the leaving. All right. And then lastly, if there's no physical violence, then it's not that serious. It doesn't need to be taken seriously. And as someone who has spent almost a decade working on behalf of, advocating on behalf of survivors at the local and national and state levels, I can tell you that there is no need for physical violence for someone to escalate to murder or to killing their partner. All right. So physical violence absolutely is a risk factor, but it does not have to be present for us to take it seriously. Okay. Or for things to escalate to being very lethal. All right. And I see some questions. I'm going to let you all know that at the end of the session, we're going to leave some time for questions from the audience. And so I'm going to ask you if you would just write your questions on a piece of paper so you don't forget it. And we're going to allow time for as many questions as we have, because I believe that our survivor story will also help to give you some perspective. Here's some facts, just some data behind intimate partner violence. About 41% of women and 26% of men have experienced sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking by intimate partner, and reported an intimate partner violence related impact during some time in their life. All right. You may have heard the statistics. That's about 1 in 3 women. That was the statistic that we used for a really long time, and it's still very relevant. So that's a lot of people that have been impacted. Injury, PTSD symptoms, concern for safety, fear, needing help from law enforcement, and missing at least one day of work are common impacts that are reported by survivors. And so the impacts of domestic violence or intimate partner violence on survivors are not just the physical bruises and all of that. It impacts all aspects of well-being, from mental health to physical health to financial security, from all of these various areas. About 16 million women and 11 million men who reported experiencing sexual violence, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime said that they first experienced these forms of violence before the age of 18. Wow. This is why prevention cannot be minimized. Prevention is critical to the work of ending violence, ending intimate partner violence, because much of the violence begins very early on. In my experience, it's nothing to have a high school or even a middle school, couple or romantic relationship involve some type of power and control. Where do you think, I'm just putting this out and I'm going to ask you to just put it in the chat, but where do you, we talked about the root and someone said trauma, but I'm just curious, when we talk about, power and control in relationships and, the role that men play, gender roles and all that, the way we're socialized, what other things kind of come up? What else do you think adds to young people, for instance, being violent in relationships when they've really just started having relationships? What are some influences you think? I just want to take a couple: mental health, inexperience, video games, substance use, repeating patterns, good, being victims, witnessing violence in their home, their childhood experiences. Thank you for sharing that. Good. Societal gender roles, absolutely. So data from the U.S. crime report suggests that about 1 in 5 homicide victims are killed, listen, by an intimate partner. So when we talk about intimate partner violence, it's not just about the black eye and the broken arm. We are talking about something that takes the lives of victims. 1 in 5 are killed at the hands of an intimate partner. The reports also found that over half of female homicide victims in the United States are killed by a current or former male partner. So we must also acknowledge the fact that women are most often murdered at the hands of male partners, all right, when we talk about intimate partner violence. On the screen next, you're going to see something that we use often in the domestic violence space, and it's the power and control wheel. Some of you all may have seen this, but this wheel was originally created by the Domestic Abuse Intervention Project in Duluth, Minnesota, and it's been around a very long time. I used to know the exact year, but I don't anymore, but I would say probably about the 80s, I believe. The wheel diagram serves as, it shows the tactics that abusive partners use to keep survivors in a violent relationship. The inside of the wheel makes up subtle, continual behaviors over time, while the outer ring represents physical and sexual violence. You see at the root of this, at the center of this wheel is what? Power and control. All right. It shows that the abusive actions, like those that are depicted in the outer ring, reinforce the regular use of other more subtle methods found in the inner ring. And so these are some of the common ways that power and control is maintained by a perpetrator. And so we see things like intimidation. We see emotional abuse, right? I have heard from survivors that the physical abuse is actually not the worst for them, that the bruises will fade, but it is the emotional abuse that erodes the spirit, that constantly chips away at their well-being and their sense of self. Isolation is also one of the tactics that perpetrators will use. So moving them away from their family, right? Escalating the relationship very quickly. We see things begin to change when there's a baby that is birthed, or they get married, or there's some significant event that happens and takes the relationship to a next level. We might see the violence begin to increase. Perpetrators will minimize blame and deny their actions. This is where we see the popular what is it called? Gaslighting. I'm sorry. That's what we see, the gaslighting happening, right? It's not me, it's you. You're just imagining that. I didn't do that. You're the problem. I'm not the problem. You're the one that has depression. You're the one that's on medication. I'm not. So all of those are ways that the minimization and blaming happens. There's a use of children. Children are often used as pawns by perpetrators, right? The children are used to keep tabs on the parent, to keep them home and not able to work. There's societal privilege, right? That is used, gender roles, racism, using community influence. So if a person is a police officer, there comes with a certain level of privilege. Is that survivor going to call the law enforcement folks if she is being abused by a police officer? Probably not. Right? So there's societal privilege that is also, and I see someone put in their technology. Yes, it's absolutely one that in other versions of the wheel, you'll see technology added in, but it's definitely a critical piece. And then there's economic and academic abuse. So not allowing the survivor to go to school or work, or get their own sense of financial security. Why? Because if I want to keep the power and control in the relationship, then I am going to control the money, because money is power, right? And then there's also coercion and threats that are often used. And when a person threatens to take the life or to kill their significant other, we don't want to minimize that. Most often, perpetrators said they would kill before they killed. So we want to make sure that we don't minimize that as we work or support survivors. All right, so that is the ground setting. That is some things that I want you all to keep in mind as we talk about intimate partner violence. We want to keep in mind this idea of intimate partner violence at the root being about the need for power and control, right? That it's not about all these other things. Those things may add, but at the root, it's about a person wanting to have power and control in the relationship. And so I'm gonna go into an interview type space with our survivor today. I'll tell you a little bit about her in just a moment, but this quote really centers us today. I was very intentional in this webinar series to amplify the voices of survivors. And so in each session, we're going to make sure that we bring the stories of survivors to the forefront. And so this quote says, "You can recognize survivors of abuse by their courage. When silence is so very inviting, they step forward and share their truth so others know that they are not alone." We want to center ourselves in that it is courage. It takes courage to share your story of survival. All right. So I want to introduce our survivor as we celebrate the strength and resilience today. And it's LaVon Morris Grant. LaVon is an entrepreneur, an author, an international speaker, consultant, and a political and social justice advocate. She is originally from Jersey City, New Jersey, where she received her bachelor's degree in marketing from New Jersey City University. She has 3 awesome adult children and 3 beautiful grandchildren. LaVon is also a woman who has survived being shot multiple times by her ex-partner. And so we want to just take a moment to celebrate LaVon's strength and resilience. So please join me in welcoming LaVon to our space. Welcome, LaVon.
Hi, Gia. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to minimize our screen. Stop sharing so that we can chat. And for those that are here, I want you to just look at it as if you're just listening in on our conversation. That's how we're going to address this today. You're listening in on our conversation. And if you have specific questions, we're going to ask again that you would hold your questions to the end, and we will definitely try to get to as many as we can. All right. So, LaVon, so excited to have you. I've had the privilege of getting to know you and your amazing story. And so before we dig into the story, I want you to tell us, who is LaVon? Who are you? Not your bio, right? But
right.
Who is LaVon?
Thank you for that opportunity, Gia. Yes, I am not my bio, but hello, everyone. I am so happy to be here. I'm excited as Gia is excited to have me here. So thank you for that. I just want to clarify, I think 2 things. My partner was not my ex. We were still married. And I think there was one other thing, but I can't remember. And just to ask you, Gia, and others, like it just sounds weird to keep being called the survivor. That's not me. As I get to tell you, I don't compartmentalize myself that way.
Okay.
I'm LaVon. And so I just like to be referred to, as LaVon. Yes, absolutely. I survived that, but I survived a lot of other things as well. Absolutely. And so to just be sent to as the survivor is coming, I'm like, oh, mm-hmm. that just didn't feel good. And so I just want to share that with us, right, as we learn, mm-hmm. as we work with each other. But as far as me, LaVon Morris Grant, I love Gia for people to know that I'm from Jersey City, New Jersey, because that is what shaped me. That mm-hmm. place, my humble beginnings. And not only am I from Jersey City, I saw some people from my home state, and then I saw some people from the other home state, which is upstate New York, in this session. But I grew up in the housing projects of Jersey City, and that's important for me because when we talk about societal norms, people look down on the housing projects. They look down on the people in the housing projects. Yeah. And so I I embrace that because, again, that is what shaped me for the first 22 years of my life. And my mom, who was born in 1943, I'm honoring my mom who passed away almost 2 years ago. My mom was born in 1943, and the projects we grew up in, she was brought home from the hospital to that projects that was brand new. And my mom lived there over 60 plus years.
Wow.
And so not just my mom, but my family and my family, generations of my family. And so that was the nucleus of who LaVon Morris at that time became, right? That was what tied. And back in the day, the village was really a village. When you ask who LaVon is, Gia, the village was truly a village. Though people look down on the housing projects, they never, even today, get the time to know the person. They just automatically assume certain things. But I just want you all to know that growing up in their housing projects, poverty, poor, low economic, financial status, but humble people, working class people, people with heart, people who are valuable, they taught me to love that little girl, LaVon, as a Black little girl. I've never, ever, Gia, felt inferior as a Black girl. Never. I never felt like I didn't belong because I was Black. I was so proud to be a Black girl that, Gia, for real, growing up, I used to tell my mom that I believe that all white people should want to be Black. That's how strongly, until I got older, right? And then I understood white supremacy, right? Like of course, my mom would just look at her little daughter and just shake her head. And Vonnie is my nickname. And she was like, Vonnie, go sit down, girl.
Yeah.
Because I just always had so many questions for my mom. And I thought my mom was the smartest person in the world. You could not tell me there wasn't anyone smarter than my mom. And I give those stories, Gia, to kind of give people a sense of who I am. I am very connected to family. I'm a very confident woman. I try to instill confidence in other women, particularly Black women. I show up unapologetically in every space that I find myself. And I just try to keep it real. I just try to keep it real and down to earth. And all of those accolades or whatever you read in my bio, Gia, whatever. Okay, good. I'm thankful, proud, thankful to God that I survived a lot of things. But just being LaVon in all of the ways that I know how, and not feeling the need to have to step on others to be me. I'm gonna be a leader, even if I'm in the back of the room. It doesn't matter to me to have a title, to know that I am a leader, because that's what Jersey City housing projects, Booker T. Washington housing projects instilled in me, that I'm a leader no matter where I'm leading from.
I thank you for bringing that up, because I think it helps kind of help us get an understanding that LaVon is a strong woman. So that whole idea that survivors look a certain way or are somehow inferior, right? It really debunks that, because we have someone before us that's saying, I never struggled with who I was. I never struggled with my identity. So I want to thank you so much for letting us know how you grew up, and that shapes who you were. That shapes who you are. And so my next question for you, LaVon, is, we know that we are talking about intimate partner violence, and we're talking about, and it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we're bringing awareness to the issue. And so I want to just give you space to let us in just a little bit to your story. And I know I got it. You are not what happened to you. You are LaVon. So from this moment forward, you would not be the survivor, right? And some folks want to be identified as survivors, and they're fine with that. But I thank you for clarifying that. So LaVon, tell us a little bit about your story.
Oh, okay. Before I get to the story, which is all part of the story, what I'm going to say, I always, because Gia, one of the things I really take a lot of pride in, I am an international speaker. I absolutely love the stage. I love the stage. And so, as a speaker, you always go check out the room, you check out who's coming in, because people don't know I'm always the speaker. So that's
Yeah.
good, and I keep it that way. So, I could check out the room. I'll just sit at a random table, right,
Yeah.
and have chit chats with people. They don't know I'm the speaker until they call me up on the stage. And then they'll be like, oh my God. And so I always love to get that reaction. So the same thing here on virtual. I go through all the participants.
Yeah.
I check the chat. I read everything. It's the same thing. Is like that thing. And so one of the things, two things I saw, I don't understand what it was, and maybe we'll get to it. When you ask people to write about what they see, or what do they think of when they hear the word survivor or something like that. And someone wrote attachment conflict. That sounds so clinical to me. I have no idea. When I was in graduate school for my master's in social work, I was like, that's what that reminds me of back in the day, attachment conflict. And if I'm not pronouncing it correctly, Gia, please help me. It says empath, EMPATH.
Oh, being empathy. Yeah, someone who's empathic or empathetic. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Gia, I wasn't sure. But anyway, I was just so surprised. I've never seen those words
Yeah.
connected to a survivor.
Person that's an
Before.
empath. Yeah. Very, takes on other people's emotions and feelings.
Thank you.
All that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I should have Googled, but
You're
but
fine.
I'm glad I'm having a conversation, because I'm sure there's other people maybe that didn't know either. So we can all learn together. So thank you for that, Gia. As I share who I am and who I was at that time, and even in that experience, it still made me who I am today.
Mhm.
And so, geez. So back in the 90s, I know I'm aging myself, but back in the 90s, and prior to the 90s, there was not a term for, not only was it not a term, but we weren't even working on emotional abuse. That wasn't even part of the equation that we talked about as an issue. And I'm saying we today, but I want you all to understand, as I talk to you, I had no clue about what I'm telling you now. And that's the other thing in the story that I need you to understand, is that a lot of survivors, or people who have survived intimate partner violence, have no clue what's happening. But society, Gia, thinks we do, but we don't. And so going back again, domestic violence, that wasn't even my language. That wasn't my community's language. That wasn't a word. I had no clue. I remember when I went to shelter and they called my husband a batterer, and I wanted to fight them. Like, who don't be talking about my husband? Like, So language, over all of my 30 years in this movement, language is very, very important, very important. And people tend to forget that. And so when I was going through all of what I'm going to share, or I learned it later. I learned, even when it happened to me, I learned it much later. And so I told you I grew up in the housing projects. So being in the housing projects, you working from a place of survival most of the time, but you don't know that. You just think it's normal and you just living. You don't know you're surviving, because as a kid, I was having a lot of fun. And so that was the other reason why too, I thought everybody should want to be white, because as a Black person who was always around Black people, we have fun all the time. And I thought everybody should want to have fun all the time. And so in that survival space, I had to fight a lot, and I did. And I love to fight. And I know how to fight. And let me be real clear. And so you'll learn some more about who LaVon is to Gia through this process. And so I just need to set that backdrop as I tell you, the man who became my husband, his name was Herb. And this is the first time I actually say his name. I never say his names in my talks. I always say my husband, but his name was Herb. He had a name. And I met Herb. We were in high school. We were on the track team together. He was 2 years ahead of me. And but we were not sweethearts. People always try to romanticize my story. Be like, oh, that was LaVon's high school sweetheart. No, he was not. I was a young woman who was very popular in high school. I was an athlete. I was a track star. I broke several records. So I was full of myself, if you will. I called myself body beautiful. I had the boom, bang, boom body in my head. I did.
Yeah.
And so I loved boys, and I was a flirt. So there was no one main boy. So her would have never been my one main sweetheart, high school sweetheart. And so, but Herb served a purpose during that time because he was a senior, and the senior prom was on my birthday that year. And I was a sophomore, and it's a big deal, Gia, right? When you could get to go to the senior prom, and it was on my birthday that year, and I didn't care how it happened, but I was going to that senior prom. And so Herb happened to ask me to go to his prom, and I was turning 16 that day. I was turning 16, and I went to that prom. Now Herb liked me in a way where he wanted me to be his girlfriend, but I had time for that because I was too cute. And and he was going off to college also, but we remained friends. And then the opportunity for me to be his girlfriend, I guess, came at the end of my senior year. I had broken up with a boyfriend, and Herb and I began to date by the time I graduated from high school, even though I went off to college. Now I'm going to speed this up. I just wanted to give you some backdrop of where we came into the picture. Many years pass. We get married. We have 3 children within the marriage, and something interesting began to happen that Gia, you spoke so much about power and control. I don't know power and control at that time. All I know is my husband started demanding these things, and I'm looking at him like, man, you better get out my face. I'm not doing that. That don't make any sense. And I would go about my business because I had 3 kids to raise, and he was working 2 jobs, and so we had to live. I don't have time. I don't want you to go here, and I don't want you to do this, and I need to keep the bank books. And see, that's how much I'm dating myself, because we don't even have bank books no more. I need you to ask me when you want to take money out the bank. I was like, get out my face. I'm not doing any of that stuff. And so I just thought he was kidding or just having moments. And so I paid it no mind. And so I learned, right, Gia, that about that power and control. But I was just like, no, that's not happening. But what began to happen was he would start calling me names, or as if he never really stopped. He would start calling me, you stupid ass bitch, things like that. Yeah. I was like, really? Remember, I told you I could fight, right, Gia? So I'm not afraid of you. And so my responses were, your mama a stupid ass bitch. Now, it's like, hey, we're going to play these dozens here. And what you going to do about it? Because in my mind, I got back at you, right? I got back at you. I leveled the playing field. Now leave me alone. Go your business. Yeah. And I remember saying to him, I don't care what you call me. You just better not ever hit me. Because if you hit me, my family coming to get you. We're going to jump you. Because the other thing about fighting, you jump people. And it's like, it is what it is. And so he never hit me. My husband never, ever hit me. But what I never expected was the constant verbal abuse, name calling. And it wasn't always so vulgar, right? It would be like, you just can't never do anything right. Why you just can't be like everybody else? You just this. I don't know why I married you. Just stuff like that, right? What I didn't expect, G, and nobody talked about and still don't talk about, was the impact on my spirit it was having. I didn't know what to do with that. And not knowing what to do with that, I have nobody to go talk to, because what the audience also needs to understand, during that time, by the time I left my husband, we were making over $100,000 back in the 90s. And so I'm a middle-class woman. We got a house, we got 3 kids, we got brand new cars, we took 2 vacations a year. So, we were living that young life. I'm only 29 years old, at this time. And or maybe 30, whatever, but we living the life. So Gia, you my girlfriend, I can't go to you and say, oh, Gia, Herb keeps calling me a stupid bitch girl, and I'm so tired of this. I'm so tired of arguing with him. We argue all the time, and you would look at me like I was crazy because the outside facade showed you all of what I just told you, and your response may have been, "Girl, he could call me a stupid bitch any day. Look at the life you got."
Yeah.
Right. So when we talk about why don't she just leave? So just sit right, Gia. He didn't even hit me yet.
And
So
I need people to hear that. He never hit you.
never hit me. Never hit me. There was never any physical.
Physical.
But my spirit, Gia, I don't know what is happening. I don't know where to go. And the other thing, these need to know, we belonged to a church, and he was a deacon and I was a deaconess. Oh Lord.
Yeah.
We were in our early 30s, and the next person to me, or the next woman to me as a deaconess, she may have been in her late 40s, early 50s. So, to me back then, that was old. So there was no connection to even talk to a deaconess or talk to anyone. And the church didn't talk about anything either. And so in the church, I was very opinionated. I didn't agree with all the stuff, and my husband did. So they liked my husband and they didn't like me. But okay. Right. So, because I challenged the Bible, I challenged everything. I still challenge stuff to this day. And so we go on, Gia, we got these 3 kids. Then it started escalating in the sense that he began to threaten to kill me. Now, I share this, but I say it, I wasn't afraid of his threats. His threats didn't mean anything to me, but he was threatening to kill me. I just want the audience to know he be like, if I had a gun, I would shoot you in the head. Like, he would tell me what he was going to do to me. I'm like, oh, Herb, please go have a seat. Like, I don't have time for this. And, I would ask him, why would you kill me? Why would you do that? I haven't done anything to you. Because see, when you a fighter, Gia, you fight because there's a reason. Something has happened.
Yeah.
And in my mind, you wanting to fight me or kill me, I can't see the connection because I haven't done anything to you.
Yeah.
So I don't understand. So for me, it was just like, get out my face. I don't have time. And I didn't give it no time. I gave it no.
You didn't believe him. You thought he was just talking.
Just talking. It was just talking. And then Herb never showed or had anything to show that he was physically violent, ever. There was nothing about my husband that you could look at or even talk to say, oh, this man is dangerous. Nothing. There was nothing. He didn't fit no patterns. He didn't fit none of the language, none of that. And so I begged us to go to therapy, begged him and marriage counseling, whatever. And he said, he would say yes, then he would say no, but I went to therapy. I started going to therapy. Unknowing, I didn't know I was going to therapy, but I didn't know the person I was talking to at the church was a therapist.
Yeah.
Let me be clear. And when I found out he was a therapist, I was like, oh no, I can't talk to you. I can't talk to you. But because again, we don't go to therapy, and therapy was not something, it was a stigma. It was like something was wrong with me. And I was telling the family secrets or telling the cultural secrets and all that stuff. And so even though he was a Black man, but Gia, the stuff he was saying to me, it was intriguing and it was so profound to me. And I kept being drawn back. So I was going to therapy, and in the therapy, in those sessions, whatever, I started learning about Levon. I started learning that it was okay to still have an identity. Oh my God. That I don't have to just be somebody's wife and somebody's mother, and that I'm supposed to take on the whole world and protect them from everything that comes at them. And I'm supposed to be the proud, strong Black woman that takes care of her man and be all the things for him that he can't be for himself. I was like, really? And then one of the biggest things I learned was that I didn't have to be my mom.
Yeah.
So my husband started seeing the change in me. I'm going to call it that. I never got the chance to ask him, but he started seeing the change in me, and he kept threatening me. And then one day I just left. I just left. Took have 3 children, Marquise, Corey, and Sharia. I took Corey and Sharia with me because they were very young still. Marquise was in high school, and I thought I was coming back. I left Gia to shock him into going to therapy. I didn't leave because of the violence or the threats. I left because the marriage was bad, and he used to say he'll do anything to fix the marriage.
Wanted to
So
change,
I thought once he saw that I left, that he would do whatever he needed to do to get me back and to keep me, because I just believed he loved me so much. And so I left Gia. I went into shelter. People think I went into shelter after the shooting, but I didn't. I went into shelter prior. And that's when they were telling me my husband was a batterer. And I was like, I don't know what y'all talking about. And when you showed that wheel, Gia, so they showed me the wheel to show me what a batterer looked like. And I read it. And they was like, you get it now? They were so excited. They like, you get it? And I was like, I read it because I know how to read. But I said, I do everything on the wheel. I know how to do everything on the wheel. When you come from a place of survival, I know how to manipulate you all day long. I know those tactics. I know how to get anything I want to get, because when you come from a place of survival, you learn that. And so they looked at me and I was like, yeah, so, and does that make me a batterer? Like, what does that say about me? I said, I manipulate my husband all day. I make him think he came up with stuff and I came up with it. And I'm like, yeah. But anyway, Gia, so did that. My husband begged me to come back. I never went back, so I didn't have the revolving door. But what happened, Gia, I went into under the poverty line. I was living under the poverty line. It was so bad. So we didn't have these ATMs, right? And all these kind of technologies we have today. I was looking up at the poverty line. It was so bad. There was no support. I was a middle-class woman. And so the movement was used to working with, and still are, used to working with poor economic women. I was educated. I had my degree in marketing. I was smart. I knew how to make decisions. And I knew how to make decisions that were right for me. So the things that the advocates were telling me they wanted me to do, I'm like, I'm not doing that. That makes no sense. Like how you gonna how you gonna assign me a day to wash clothes? That makes no sense. You got all these rules. I'm a grown woman. I know how to take care of my kids. I know how to feed them. I know when I need to wash clothes. And you're gonna tell me if I miss my day to wash clothes, I gotta wait till the next week. Yeah, okay, watch. I'm gonna use that machine whenever I need to use that machine. So it was just all that kind of crazy stuff happening. And I was just so confused. No one could really help me because there were no resources for me. And I had to find my own resources. So I'm in crisis. I got to find my own resources. I have to advocate for myself. And I had to learn this language. I didn't have to learn this language, but the movement had all this feminist language. I didn't even know anything about a feminist. Like, what the heck is that? So all these things are coming at me, but I never go back. I kept begging my husband to go to therapy. He did not go. So money was lacking. I had no money. My vehicle got repossessed. I couldn't afford to pay rent. I didn't have childcare. So I left in October. By June of the next year, I had to send my 2 young children back to live with my husband.
To survive,
because there was just no way I could do it. I just could not do it. And people they'd be like, oh my gosh, she's a bad mother. She sent her children back. But he's a parent too. Like, he's a parent too. And so why he can't take on the responsibility of taking care of his children? And he had all the money. Majority, because I lost my job once I left. And so Gia, June of that year, I sent my children back to live with their dad. So now we in constant contact. He would come upstate New York to visit me, bring the children. I would see my children. Because again, I'm not afraid of him. There was never any physical abuse. He never showed any signs of danger, that I was in danger. And by September, I was supposed to take the children back. Well, I could not take them back by September because again, financial reasons and whatever. So I made arrangements that the children would stay in New Jersey with him. And I had arrangements where my friends and my family would help take care of the children, getting them back and forth to school, making sure they ate, just taking care of well-being, but they were able to all live back together with their brother, and they were all back in the house that they were used to living in. And I would be the one to travel back and forth
Back and forth.
because
Yeah.
my husband let my truck get repossessed, but he wouldn't bought the truck that he knew I loved. And I know he brought that truck in the hopes when I saw it, it would make me come back. So
Yeah.
he did a lot of financial smoking me out, which I don't have time for today, but there was a lot of things that happened in the 10 months that had passed. So September comes, we've been separated for 10 months. A lot of stuff happened in that 10 months. I go to the house, Gia. I leave New York State to travel down to Irvington, New Jersey. That's where everything took place. It's September. I travel on a Saturday, September 7th. The children are going to school on that Monday. School was starting, and I wanted to be there for their first few days of school. And then my plan was to go back upstate New York, and I was going to keep coming back and forth to the house to help the children, without me and my husband needing to be together. I had decided at some point I was going to file for divorce. And so I go to the house. My husband's at work. He gets a call that I'm at the house. Now, he had a girlfriend. She was there. And I was like, you got to go, but you could come back in 3 days after I leave, but you can't stay here today, or whatever. And I knew her. We all went to high school together. So he comes home. There was a small altercation, and she leaves. The police come, and I just let him know I'm staying. I'm tired of being the one to leave. I'm staying for 3 days to be with my kids. And he was mad because I didn't ask his permission. I'm like, I don't need to ask your permission. It's my house. So anyway, Gia, the next day is a Sunday. I got up to get me and my 3 children ready for church. We were going to go to a 3:00 service. So I started preparing around 9:00 that morning. My husband kept asking, he would come to me throughout the morning asking for a family meeting. He wanted to have this family meeting. I'm like, Herb, nope, I don't even want to talk to you. Like go talk to your girlfriend. I'm good, And I noticed he would be upset, and I'm like, oh, I don't feel like dealing with this. And I didn't want the kids to be in the watching us always argue. So I decided to speed up my time to get out the house earlier. And so I decided, instead of cornrolling my daughter's hair, I'll just slap ponytails. So I'm still in my nightgown, Gia. It was a Snoopy nightgown. I love that nightgown. And my daughter is just in her panties and wet hair because I had just washed it. And I think my boys are downstairs in the basement watching TV. My husband comes downstairs. I get up to go upstairs because I need barrettes. But I noticed he wasn't dressed for church because he should have been leaving for church at 10:00 in the morning. But he had on jeans and a t-shirt. And I'm like, why he don't have on his suit? But I don't say nothing. He moves to the side to let me by to go upstairs. He comes upstairs. He follows me upstairs, and he says again he wants to have this meeting. And I'm like, Herb, go on to church. Leave me alone. We're not going to have this meeting. We could talk later. I just want to spend time with the kids. And as I'm standing at the dresser looking for the barrettes, he's standing on the side of me to my left. He's facing me this way, and I'm facing this way. And he says, are you going to talk to me now? I'm just like, what is this man talking about? So I turned to my left to look to see what he was talking about. And when I turned, there was a .22 caliber gun pointed at my left temple, and he pulled the trigger. He just pulled the trigger. There was no baiting me, like no words. He pulled the trigger. And before I can respond, he pulled the trigger, and the bullet caught me behind my left ear, because at some point I figured it out. I turned my head slightly, and when I turned my head, it was enough to turn my head to where now the bullet is pointed. It's not pointed at my at my left temple. So that bullet caught me behind my ear, and it traveled through my head, which I felt it traveling through my head, and he shoots me again. He shoots me in my thigh. He shoots me in my left thigh. And he shoots me again because when the first bullet struck, I don't drop, I don't die, I don't lose consciousness, nothing happens. I begin to run. I begin to run, and as I'm running, I guess he shoots me in my thigh. I get out the bedroom. Now, my children, all three of my children, are downstairs at the bottom of the stairs looking up, watching their dad and hearing what's happening. I get out the bedroom. I see my children at the bottom of the stairs. They see me. They are in total shock. My husband shoots me again. He shoots me in my butt. And when he shoots me in my butt, I dive headfirst down the stairs. And he shoots me again. As I'm swimming away down the stairs, yelling, Marquise, Corey, Sharia, wait for me. Mommy's coming. Mommy's coming. I am literally yelling to my kids, I'm coming, I'm coming, I'm coming. But knowing and believing I'm going to die any minute. He then shoots me in my left foot. That breaks my foot. And I don't know that at the time. I get to the bottom of the stairs. Spirit it was guiding me, because instead of jumping straight up, I stayed low and I crawled into the living room. And thank goodness, because he shoots again and that bullet went into the door. He shoots again and that bullet grazes over the top of my 4-year-old daughter's head in the wall. So that's 6 bullets in the chamber. So all the bullets, he shoots all 6 bullets, 4 of them hit me. And I grab my children, and now the front door is right there, but we run all the way to the back of the house, to the back door. And we get out and we run back to the front of the house, and I'm screaming, help me, help me. My husband shot me, my husband shot me. And I'm running and I'm grabbing my kids. I grab my daughter and we run into the neighbor's house. And I tell her to please put my children in the basement, and I'm gonna go lay on the kitchen floor to die. And I don't want my children to see me die. Now, I only thought I had 1 bullet in my head, because I don't remember the other 3. I didn't feel the other 3. I don't know what it feels like to be shot. I just know they're there because the paramedics come, and the paramedics tell me I have 3 other bullets. I'm like, you got to be kidding. Like, when did that happen? And so they get me onto the gurney. When they flip me over, that's when they saw the bullet in my thigh. Like, I'm just like, good Lord. And found out that they were rushing me and my husband to the University Hospital in Newark, New Jersey, because he had shot himself once in the right temple. He had shattered his brain, but he was still alive. And so they rush us both to the hospital. We get there. Because I'm conscious, I'm still his legal guardian. So they have to come talk to me about his condition, and letting me know that he's going to expire within 8 to 48 hours, committing suicide. And he did. He died 2 days later in University Hospital. And I had surgery on 1 bullet, the one that was in my butt. I always get so tickled with that one, and because it went into my stomach and they couldn't find it. And they performed surgery on that bullet, but the other 3 bullets stayed in my body. 1 came out on its own a week later. The one in my head is still, it went from this side of my head to this side, so it's over here. And the one in my foot, it broke this toe. And I guess because I was running, the bullet broke in 2. So one part of the bullet is here, the other part is here, and then I got a bunch of fragments. And so they just left it alone, like they left the one alone in my neck. But the greatest tragedy, I mean, yes, that's a tragedy. The 2 great tragedies that happened after that was that the whole community in the church blamed me for that. They justified Hurd's behavior. I made him do that. And the other great tragedy, well, I don't know if it's a tragedy, but physically, Gia, there was nothing wrong with me. There was nothing physically wrong with me. The doctors could not understand how there was nothing wrong with me, because every bullet was placed in a position where it should have killed me. Every bullet, except the one in my foot. But the head, the one in the butt went into my stomach where all your organs are, and the one in my thigh should have hit the femur bone, but it did not. I should have bled out. But anyway, nothing physically was wrong with me. But Gia, I cannot begin to tell you the emotional trauma of the many 10 to 15 years plus that it took to feel some normalcy again, to feel some joy in my heart, because what the audience needs to understand, it wasn't just me. I have these 3 kids. They 4, 7, and 14. What the hell I'm gonna do with that? No one, there's nothing to tell me how to get through this kind of trauma. Nobody, there's nothing to prepare you for that. And when you have to deal with the fact that people are saying if they see you on the street, they are going to kill you. So you have to manage all of that. And so this happened in Irvington, New Jersey. The funeral took place in Jersey City, New Jersey, because that's where we're both from. After 3 weeks, I hightailed it back up to upstate New York, not because I wanted to stay in my support system, but because of the fear of Jersey City is my hometown. Like, I know it like the back of my hand. So, gee, I couldn't take the chance if I run into you and you mad that you're going to try to kill me, because I don't know who's upset with me. And so I had to leave, and I had to leave all of that behind and start a whole new life in a place. Yes, I lived there for a short period of time, but that's not home. And I had to figure it out. Gee, I had to figure it all out. And it was a difficult, hard, emotional, mental process journey. And yeah, and so that's the gist of that part of the story, and then a whole lot of other stuff later.
Well, I just want to take a deep breath for all of those who are probably like, I mean, you lived it, right? There's nothing compares to what you lived. But I thought it was important to bring the realities of what can happen and what has happened. We see it, all over the news, all the time, and we become desensitized to it. But you are standing here first as a miracle, but second, as just I think somebody said, just a testimony of just, man, of strength, and just, oh man, it's just, I can't even put words to it. So I guess before we leave a little space for folks to ask a couple of questions, I wanted to know what would you say was the most important aspects of your healing journey? What got you to be this woman today who has wrote a book about her story, who has advocated on behalf of domestic violence survivors for 30 plus years, businesswoman, all of these things that you have done, this resilience that we talk about? What do you think was what was it that got you through that, you and your children?
So gee, I'm gonna try to keep this short to leave space for the audience. But that's a mouthful, right, Gia? The first thing I want to say is, like, all the accolades you just gave me, all those adjectives in it, Gia, I don't feel no strength, at the time, I don't feel no courage, because I didn't do anything, right? God saved my life. I didn't, that's my belief. I didn't do anything. And just to, when you talk about the healing journey, the healing journey wasn't this glorious journey, Gia. Part of the healing journey was being very angry with God, very angry with God that he allowed me to live. Yes. And I know people be like, what? Yes, because people say, but you're a miracle. But Gia, I didn't create the miracle. I didn't do the miracle. Something happened to me and somebody saved my life. The angry part about living was, now you expect me to be able to know how to live. You are expecting me to know how to be able to get these 3 children through this. You are expecting me and expecting me and expecting me. And so every day I thought of ways to commit suicide every day, because I did not see myself I did not think I was the right person for these three children. I felt like these three children deserved someone so much better than what they got. I was not her.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so angry with God that he allowed her to take the easy way out.
And you
And
left.
and you left me with all the broken pieces. Nothing about my life was familiar. Nothing. I had nothing. Only thing I had was, I know I'm Levon, and those three children I know I birthed.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the only thing that was recognizable in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Gia, the healing journey, I'm still on the healing journey, to be quite honest with you. So I'm not looking at it as a healing journey. All I know, Gia, is I stayed consistent, because remember, I told you I come from the projects, right? And I came from a group of women who were matriarchs.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran track, and I pulled on. There's a thing in track when you get winded when you're running, whether you're a sprinter or a middle distance runner, your coach would yell, "Go deeper." You got to go deeper. You got to go past the pain,
Yeah.
and you'll find another wind. And you train for that. And if that's the way to describe it, Gia, that was it. But it wasn't. I didn't always get to go past the pain, right? The pain had me so shackled and so far down in a deep, deep hole. I call it my black hole in the book. And it took my faith. It took my faith to the brink of trusting the process. And I remember saying, it's in the book, and so excuse my language, Gia. I just remember saying F the process and F God. I just remember like all y'all, F all y'all. Thinking, telling me I could do this, and nobody has ever done it. And so the other thing, Gia, consistency, and my expectations for my children never changed. So my son, who was 14, from the time he was born, and all my other children, it was always, you going to college, you going to college. So we didn't get along. Oh my God, that kid hated me, and I didn't like him too much either. But loved him, but didn't like him. But at 17, Gia, he left to go to Morehouse College. So the expectation was still the same. In all of our pain, we will not become we will not allow our circumstances to be an excuse. That's what I used to always tell my kids. I used to always tell them that, even though I didn't know how much I believed it, because it was so hard. But gee, I just kept breathing, right? I just kept breathing, and I just kept asking God, please help me, please help me. This pain is so bad, it's so bad. And these three kids are dependent on me. They are so, even that boy who did not like me, whether he knew it or not, he needed me. And I needed them. And so each day, you just wake up and you're still alive. You're still alive. And each day gonna go into a year, and another day, and that's gonna go into another year. So you keep doing the work, you keep falling back, you get back up, you do it, you're just doing it, Gia, right? And then one day, your baby goes off to college, and you're like, oh wow, the boy's in college. Woo woo, 2 more kids. And that child goes to college. Woo woo. We going to therapy. Okay, great. That baby goes to college. She graduates. Oh, wow. Now everybody grown. 41, 34, and 31. Everybody grown with their kids and their life. And I write a book a year after the shooting. The book comes out 3 years later, and people are asking me to be a national speaker. And so all these things are happening simultaneously, Gia, when we talk about the healing journey. Like a whole bunch of stuff is happening in that time. So that's the best way, Gia, and maybe the shortest way to just say life is still lifing.
Life is still lifing. But I love the fact that it's, for you, it was really a day by day.
Moment by moment, Gia.
Moment by moment. Yeah.
Oh.
That is beautiful. And you look back and you realize how far you've come. And I don't know how I got here, but I just kept showing up. And I think that is phenomenal. And with the last bit of our time, Levon, I don't think we're going to take a a lot of questions, but I keep seeing folks just wondering about like, what was the process for your children? How are they doing now? So anything that you can speak to, like what their, what was helpful to them and just how they're doing, as adults now.
I'm going to tell you their words because we talk about this not a lot. We used to we just in our minds normal people now, but non-traditional. We're very non-traditional normal people. My kids, my kids are the best.
Mm.
They came to see me, their mom, as this awesome woman who will do all things for them, including hold them accountable to their behavior and not allowing them to make excuses. No, no, you don't get to make an excuse. And I think the respect that they gave me, because I never, ever talked bad about their dad, not one time, not one time. And I encouraged them to love their dad. You love your dad, but you never justify what he did.
Yeah.
Never. And so I think by giving my kids space over the years to be able to come to me if they needed to, I used to tell them, if you ever want to talk about your dad, because y'all was so young, we could talk. And we did. As they got older, certain things they would ask, and I would answer honestly. And we were on this journey together because remember, they were there. They witnessed what happened. And so I think because and then we grew as this tight knit. We became a we, and we just loved each other so deeply. And so now my 41-year-old, he's the one who graduated from Morehouse College. He lives here in Atlanta. He has no children, but he's married to a woman who has 4 children, which is, we always laugh and tease him about that. He's what is that? A trainer, professional trainer, workout trainer, what you call him. You know what I mean? He's that, and he's IT. Oh my God, his brain is like, he's an IT specialist. Corey, my youngest son, my middle child, Corey is 34. Him and his girls were just here over the weekend. He did Morehouse, didn't work out, but you still got to do something. So he went to the Navy, because I'm not enabling you to do nothing. He went into the Navy, and he was a corpsman in the Navy. He just retired last year. So proud of him. And he lives in New Orleans, and he's getting ready to go back to school to get his degree, because yes, he's getting ready to go to school. So he's working, I think UPS, something like that. He's doing some work until whatever happens. My daughter, Sharia, she's 31. She just had a baby. My baby girl just turned, I think she's 21 months. She's going to be 2. That's my joy. Oh, her name is Briley. My other 2 grandkids are Kimberly Levon and Corey Lee. And so Sharia has a baby. She graduated from Savannah State University with a degree in mass comm. Yes, mass comm. She currently works at Delta. She lives here in Atlanta. So 2 children still live here in Atlanta. And like I said, my son is in New Orleans, and they all have their lives. Everybody have their lives, and Sharia's, raising her daughter. And my sweetest, I always tell them I'm leaving everything to Briley's. They get so upset. They get so upset. But they all bring me so much joy. They bring me so much joy just watching. I'm so thankful that they are doing okay, as well as they can, whatever that looks like being an adult, right? And I let them adult. I'm not trying to raise no more kids. I support and guide if you ask me for my guidance. But I do not raise grown children. I know my boundaries. I'm real clear. And my kids love that. I absolutely love it. I'm glad you're grown. Nope, don't want you to come back to live here. You can visit. So they have their lives, and they're finding their way. And but that took a lot of work, and sacrifices and investments.
Wow. Thank you for never giving up. Thank you for never giving up. This has been phenomenal. I just want to, can we just put some hearts up for LaVon for this amazing story and testament? Man, it's just so powerful. And I just want to say thank you for giving us the gift of your story today, to really bring not just, content, but to bring story, that this is what you lived and this is what you survived. And we are so grateful to you, LaVon. So thank you so much. So as we begin to wrap up, we probably won't have any more time for any further questions. But I did want to give you all just some information about the next sessions that we have coming up. And so I invite you to continue with us as we go further in our IPV series. You'll see our next session will be specifically about the impact of intimate partner violence on children. And we will have an adult survivor who will share her story and the story of her siblings and how they navigated, being witnesses to domestic violence. And so I really encourage you to register for that if you haven't. The third session will be specific to dating violence in young people. And all of these will have a survivor component. The fourth session will be specific to the ways that systems can support survivors, because there is a systemic response that's needed to both support survivors and hold perpetrators accountable. And then the last session will conclude with some best practices for clinicians. So we will have some therapists to join us who specialize in IPV and working with survivors, because this is a specialty. This is, not something that all clinicians are able to do or don't have the training to do. And so we'll talk about some do's and don'ts for clinicians. And I invite you, even if you're not a clinician, to please join us. And so they'll be at the same time on each and every Monday. And so again, I see all the love in the chat. I see the hearts. I just want to thank all 300 plus of you who joined us today to just listen in on this conversation. And I hope that you learned something new that you can take back with you that will inform the work that you're doing. So the next time that you encounter someone who is just experiencing verbal abuse or just, whatever the situation is, that these things will come to mind. I see power and control. Yeah, please take that. And we, again, have left you all with the information for the National Domestic Violence Hotline. So thank you for your time. I want you all again to take care of yourself and have an amazing rest of your day. And I hope to see all of you all at our next session. LaVon, thank you again for your time. It has been an honor and a privilege to be able to share this space with you. If folks want to get in contact with you, is there a way to do that? Is there something that you want to share as far as a website or something that folks want to get in contact with?
I'll put my email address
in the chat.
In the chat. Let me send it. I'm gonna put it in for everyone.
Okay.
And they can contact me at my personal email.
Okay. Awesome. So if there's anyone that would like to connect with LaVon, she's going to put her email and it's in the chat for you all. So again, thank you. And we hope to see you all next week.
It was amazing.